So hello followers of Metal Wani. Today we have with us Jennings, the frontman of one of the most popular and promising progressive metal bands out there today, Haken.
How are you? Yeah, good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So I remember a few years back listening to Aquarius for the first time and I was completely blown away. It's incredible that the record is 8 years old now and the band is 10 years old. How do you feel about the band's progress? Any fond memories that you can recall?
Yeah, wow. I mean, time flies in some ways, and in other ways, obviously 8 years is a long time. Like you said, obviously live album out now. This has been one of our bucket list items to tick off. Every band kind of has a few things they need to achieve, and a live album is one of them. And I know the fans have been desperate for this for a while, so I'm really happy to have that out. It's great to have so many young fans like yourself. We have quite a vast range of ages listening to our music, which is cool. And I think the stuff we've put out there is very eclectic and has attracted a vast range of people, which is cool. Yeah, so many memories already. Pretty crazy how much if we think about it, how much we've done. Yet still lots to achieve as well, I feel. If you're asking for any particular memories, well, I mean, we've only just visited India recently, which is really cool. Hitting all these new places now, which is really exciting for us. Still so much to do as well. We're still waiting to get a tour out to South America, for example. But yeah, doing our first US tour was really exciting. And obviously being invited to play with some of our favourite musicians has been such a ride so far. But yeah, I still feel we're young in the business and so much to do still.
Yep. Let's go over a few questions related to DVD because I'm sure a lot of fans would like to know more about it. I actually got the chance to review it ahead of the release, and I would of course like to congratulate you and the band. It's truly an amazing experience. So I'm sure making one was on your minds for a long time, just as you mentioned a few minutes back. So what made you decide that the time was right during this Affinity tour?
Yeah, I mean, on the back of our 10-year anniversary, we felt we needed to kind of draw a line under that and have something like a live album. Or we had bigger plans actually initially to create something more of a documentary-based thing, or excuse me. And yeah, on that particular tour, we filmed and recorded most nights, wanting to kind of create a larger scale package with scenes from different shows. In the end, it made more sense just to focus on one particular show. We spent a lot of time listening through all those shows, and the Amsterdam performance was one that we all were very happy with. So that's what we settled on in the end. And yeah, I mean, the set list on the DVD kind of draws from all our records. So that was important for us to make sure everything was represented well. So if you're a new listener, this is a perfect album or DVD to approach and learn about us, because you'll get a better sense of who we are and you know, our greatest hits, if you like.
So I also observed that you chose the Amsterdam venue as the one where you would use all your recordings for. So what made you choose specifically the Amsterdam one? Was it something with the venue? Was it how the performance played through on the night?
We had like 3 or 4 venues where we'd you know, asked a camera crew to be present, and Amsterdam was one of them. I mean, our Dutch audience is quite an important audience for us. Holland and Germany were, you know, the 2 of the countries that discovered us really at the beginning, and so, you know, acknowledging that was important to me. I have Dutch heritage myself. So I kind of feel proud that the Netherlands was represented here as well. It just worked out that way, that, you know, that was the better show for us. It was an end of the tour, so it was kind of a big celebration after a long slog on the road, and yeah, just great memories from that show.
Your vocal performance during the entire DVD was extraordinary, and I would say probably better than even some of the studio albums, which I found incredible. Was there any sort of post-production dubbing involved in the live DVD?
We, the way Haken perform and the way we're plugged in on a live show, everything's direct. So I have been receiving a few comments about this and how everything sounds clean and etc. We have all these direct channels fed straight into the desk, so it made the mixing process a lot easier to manipulate the channels. Obviously, if there are any mistakes and glitches and things that we really weren't happy and couldn't live with, there's some scope to draw from other shows and things like that. But essentially, the sound was really brought through by Jerry Guidros. He's responsible for mixing live shows for Winery Dogs and Neil Morph's band, and he just took all these channels and he made us sound great. It's incredible what he's done for us there. So yeah, we're really really pleased with the results on that.
I am pleased as well. So just a follow-up question, you mentioned Jerry Guidros who worked with you on the mixing. How did you come across him? How did you decide upon him?
Yeah, we've known him for a long time for association, because he works with Mike Portnoy quite closely. And we've actually brought him out to mix our front of house shows in the US a few times. Just become a really good friend of ours, and he's absolute pro at what he does. So it just made perfect sense to use the person who mixes our shows live to actually do the studio version. He was so thrilled to be involved, and yeah, like we said, we're really happy with the results he's produced.
So final question about the DVD. So I was extremely happy, as you said, with the set list of the tour as well as the live DVD, and particularly I was very impressed by the Aqua medley track, which is basically a summary of the album Aquarius musically and lyrically. And honestly, I thought you managed to pull it off so spectacularly that I was like super impressed. So what made you guys decide to attempt it? Did someone like just give an idea saying, why don't we just try to condense the entire album, just talk about the entire album in like, I think it was about 25 minutes?
Yeah, I mean, there were talks at the beginning of playing it in full, but it would have taken up too much of the show, and there were so many other tracks that we wanted to perform as well. So it was an easy decision to just to give that a try. We've seen other bands do that before with their I mean, Instrumentally by Dream Theater was one that inspired this idea, actually. One they performed on the l-IVE Budokan.
Yep, I've heard that actually, so I agree.
Yeah, and so we thought we'd give that a try with the whole Aquarius album. The only song that doesn't really get represented on there is Sun. But we were able to kind of work everything else in a kind of chronological order as well, which is really cool. So that was great fun to play every night, actually. It's a special album for me, being the first record, and yeah, just pleased we're able to do that. I don't think it's not likely that we'll be playing those songs that often in the future, so it's really important that we gave that some credit on this tour.
So let's move on to the near future. Haken have started working on a new album. I saw an Instagram post where I guess the drum sections were being recorded. So all your albums till date have had a concept and a clear musical theme behind it. After capturing the 80s synth influences during Affinity in your ever-evolving sound, what do you have stored for us in the new release, if it isn't a secret?
It's not really a secret as such, but things are still kind of formulating as we speak. We always want to push the bar to the next level, and we also have in the back of our minds that we want this album to be heavier in some way. So a lot of concentration's gone on to the riffs, particularly Charles has been coming up with some insane riffs for this album, and they're really heavy. We also mixing up the crew involved in recording the album and how we're doing things. For example, we'll be going with Nolly he's responsible for Periphery and the last Devin Townsend album, for example, just to give us that as the engineer, as the producer, just to give us a different kind of heavier edge to our sound, and that kind of experimentation, just to make things different this time again. So still things are open, and a lot of the details formulate kind of as we're recording, but that's generally the direction we're heading. Yeah.
All right. So yeah, I was also going to ask something similar. Has it evolved over time? Because I actually noticed, particularly during Affinity, that Connor Green, your new bassist, had a slightly more prominent role.
Connor and Rich were actually started writing when we were doing the Shattered Fortress tour. Okay. And they were locked away in their hotel room, chipping away at a new song, and that's one that's come through. So I mean, that gives you a sense of how everyone's kind of got involved this time.
Yep. So Haken don't seem to have any problems picking up influences from several other seemingly unconnected genres. The recent example is the electronic and dubstep section on the Endless Knot. Are there any similar surprising bits that you guys have in mind yet for the new album?
You can pretty much bank on that kind of thing. It's very much a Haken trait for us to draw from our influences, and I can't give away too much right now, but if you like that kind of thing, then you might hear more of that.
Needless to say, I'm excited. Moving on, so I know Einar Solberg was a guest musician for Affinity, even if it was just for a very short harsh vocal section. Do you think future albums may have guest appearances from some of the prominent prog musicians?
Yeah, it's possible. It always depends on the song. So on that particular track, it just became, it was just an idea that was thrown in, and we wanted someone who could really growl in the prog metal world, and to feature on that. And Einar was one of the choices. It's possible we'll do that again with someone, but I don't think we have anything planned for this record coming up. But yeah, it's definitely a fun thing to do in the future.
Yeah. Could you give us some of the examples of artists, or maybe some of the albums that have particularly influenced you as a vocalist, like just on the top of your head?
Yeah, I mean, growing up, there was a lot of Dream Theater involved, so that was obvious. Terrier by Devin Townsend was a big influence. I grew up listening to a lot of indie music as well, so singers like Tom York and Guy Garvey from Elbow, I would sing along to a lot. Also in the kind of AOR, stadium rock world, Steve Perry and Steven Tyler. Even I'd go as cheesy as Bon Jovi, just because they just have such presence as vocalists, and that's something I always aspired to be. So that's kind of what I bring to the table.
All right. So short harsh vocal samples have been used in Affinity and Aquarius. Is there a possibility of similar harsh vocal samples in future albums? Is it something you guys, you mentioned a bit earlier that you're looking at the more gnarly sound. So is this something we could expect in the upcoming albums?
I can't pinpoint at the moment whether or not. I cannot confirm nor deny whether it will feature that vocal style at this point. There's still stuff we're working out. But it's definitely a colour on the palette, that we will draw back to now and again, for sure. Yeah. Technically being a metal band, it's definitely something that I feel has to feature now and again.
Alright. That covers my questions for today, Ross. Thank you so much for your time. Do you have anything else that you'd like to quickly convey to your fans?
It's been a pleasure. Do check out the live album. If you haven't heard us before, it's a great first step, listening to all our tracks and what we do, seeing what we do live, and do come to our shows in the future as well. We'll be hoping to be back on the road at the end of the year, so hope to see you there.
Alright, thank you again, and all the best for the release of the live DVD as well as the future album. Have a great weekend.
Thanks so much. Take it easy.